Okay, y'all, so it's that time of the month again. We're gonna talk about all the books that I read in the month of July. But I'm like starving, okay? I just came back from having like a whole like solo day to myself, which is why I look like this. But instead of me sitting here starving, I'm going to like cook and talk at the same time, okay? So let's go start making dinner while I talk about all the books that I read in the month of July. Alright, y'all. So the first book that we're gonna talk about is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This is not necessarily the first book that I read, but this is the first book that we're gonna talk about. So, OMG, I absolutely loved that book. I am hooked, okay? I am very much hooked. So, Before I Let Go is basically about Yasmin and Josiah. It's a dual perspective book. By the way, I gave it 5 stars. So, it's basically about how Yasmin and Josiah are co-parents. They have 2 children together, and they are co-owners of a business. They have a restaurant together, but they are divorced. Like, what? Yes, they are actually no longer together. Give me 1 second. They actually got a divorce 2 years ago, but they're co-parenting and co-owning a business together. They're like drawn to each other like magnets, okay? It took me forever to figure out why they actually got a divorce, which you need to read the book to find out, obviously. No spoilers. So like Yasmin like low-key fell apart, okay? She's finally starting to find joy again, which is so exciting. She and Josiah, her ex-husband, have found a new rhythm with like co-parenting and being co-owners of this business. But like I said before, they're like magnets. They're always being drawn back to each other. Now that they're being drawn back to each other, they're wondering if they're actually really ready to let go of everything that they once had. I actually did a whole reading vlog of me reading this book where I was reading like romance novels for a whole week. So go check that out if you haven't already. But soon, one stolen kiss leads to another, and then oh my god, that's when things start picking up after that. It's all good though, but old wounds start to reopen. Because you know, when you have an ex, you start remembering the reason why they are your ex. It's hard to get over that hump of like, but this is why we broke up though, but... And so the synopsis is like, is it too late for them? Or could they be even better the second time around? Girl, when I tell you, I absolutely love how modern this book is. Like, she is our age, like she's a millennial. I don't know how old y'all are actually, but like she is talking like modern. They're talking about being an influencer because she has a daughter who has this like natural hair page on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. And every second the daughter gets, she's always like promoting herself, like go follow me on TikTok at Curly Girl, whatever. And it's like kind of funny and cute because it's so like relatable, people promoting themselves and all this kind of stuff. Just the scene and the writing is so good. This is actually a series. That's a second book, which I'm definitely gonna be picking up very soon, and I'm so excited. I just love like the friendship. Like this book takes you through a lot of things, like being friends with women, womanhood, you know, friendship, the difficulty of being a parent, being single and dating, being married, going through a divorce, trauma, therapy. It hits on a lot of big heavy topics. There's some spicy scenes that you need to like get ready for. It immediately grips you like from page 1, and I just love there is humor in this book that is like really funny to me because I get it. I don't know, I love the cover actually. It just screams like bad girl diva, but she's actually just like a human being and just like really human, you know? And I just love how Kennedy Ryan normalizes and talks about heavy topics like going through a divorce, like being single and trying to not be single, like dating in the real world is really difficult, as you probably have experienced or know if you are single and dating. Having friends who you kind of just met, but you want to open up and share your life with people, but you kind of just met them. And so like that dynamic of like womanhood, owning a business, like the trials that come with that, having goals and dreams with a partner, then you'll end up getting a divorce and then still wanting to pursue your dreams. It's just so good. If you want a good romance novel that hits on a bunch of topics, not in an overbearing way, you should definitely check out this book. Highly recommend. 5 stars. Okay, all right, I had to like put my hair up because it was like annoying me. So anyway, back to books. The next book we'll talk about is called A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. Poston? Girl, I don't know. So I gave that book 3.75 stars. Now, I really like Ashley Poston. I like her whimsical writing, the way she can make any everyday story turn into like a whimsical situation. Girl, I don't even know how to describe it, but you need to go read The 7 Year Slip. I think it's one of her best books. Anyway, Anyway, the reason why I gave a novel love story 3.75 stars is because most of the story, I was like low-key annoyed and confused. I also talked about this book in my reading romance novels for a week video, so like, yeah. Basically, let me tell you what it's about. So this girl was on her way to her annual book club retreat, and on her way to her annual book club retreat, she ends up, like, her car breaks down in the middle of a thunderstorm in a town, basically like in the middle of nowhere. She gets stranded on her way to the book club, girl. So like, that was kind of interesting, you know? She ends up in the town out of her favorite story. Basically has all of the characters who she like loved reading about. She was really in love with this one particular romance series. She was obsessed with all the books. It was like her comfort series, you know? It was very whimsical, very magical, because she is like literally seeing and talking to the characters from her favorite romance book, okay? I like that vibe. I like the magical realism with that. So basically, all of the characters from her favorite romance novel are there, but there's this one grumpy bookstore owner with mint green eyes who's just like angry, and she can't place him. Like, she can't figure out who he is and like where he's from, you know? But he's so dream, like he's so, like, I don't know, he has mint green eyes. Anyway, the romance series, the author that wrote this book, she ended up dying before finishing the last book of the series. So when she gets stuck in this town, the town basically, like, the story is pretty much incomplete, like it's not finished, you know? So Elsie feels like it is her mission to like basically finish the novel where it left off, like finish the story so that these characters can have their happy ever after ending or whatever, right? But for some reason, this grumpy bookstore owner does not want her finishing this novel. We gotta read the book to find out why doesn't this person want her to finish the novel. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's it to you? Like, why? And so anyway, but Elsie feels like it is her duty to finish the story. It takes you on the journey of her being in the town of one of her favorite romance books with a story that's incomplete. So she needs to finish the story. But the grumpy bookstore owner doesn't want her to finish the story. But what happens if she does finish the story? She feels like her finishing this story is somehow tied to her own happily ever after. She needs to finish the story, basically. The reason why I gave it 3.75 stars is because, like, I was confused most of the book. Well, yes and no. They were talking about the characters as if we already knew the characters from the other book. Like, when Elsie met up with another character, or whenever she saw a character from her favorite book, they will be talking about them like we already knew them. And so I would just be so forgetful of like who the characters were and their significance, because I didn't know the characters or their significance, because I never read the book that doesn't really exist in real life, but like it exists in Elsie's book, whatever, you know what I'm saying? It exists to Elsie. So like, there was just like a huge gap in my knowledge as the reader to who these characters were. But there are so many characters because you're literally in the town of that romance book, whatever. So of course there are gonna be a lot of characters, but like, I don't know who they are. I kept forgetting who was dating who and like the significance. But like, Elsie was so in love, so I feel like there was like a big gap. Like, I understand what Ashley Poston was trying to do by being like, oh, you're in this whimsical world, but I don't think it executed well because she didn't set it up well. Like, she didn't set up the characters from the other novel good enough for me to like know who they were. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know if that makes any sense, but it does to me. So anyway, that's kind of why I was like very confused. And then the grumpy bookstore owner, that part really had me annoyed, because I was like, who do you think this grumpy bookstore owner is? How is it that every person who she's running into is from the book except the bookstore owner? Who is he? And like, why does it take Elsie so long to figure out who he is and find out who he, like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just didn't, it fell flat for me. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on that. By the way, guys, I do have a book club. If you would love to join me and my other book club girlies, then be sure to click the link in the description box. You can literally join the book club for free, but there are other levels and tiers of the book club so that you can access different features. I have been loving connecting with you guys who have joined the book club already. I'm so glad you are over there. If you would like to join the book club and you're not part of it already, then be sure to click the link to join us book girlies. I would love to see you over there. The next book we'll talk about is Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. I was saying her name wrong the whole time. I was saying Monaghan, but it's Monaghan. Summer Romance is about this lady and this dude. Hold on, let me tell you. I needed to add some light because it was getting dark in here for no reason. Summer Romance is about this girl named Allie, right? She is also recently divorced. Something about romance and summer and divorced people. That was kind of the books that I read this month. Anyway, Allie is like recently divorced and she has 3 kids with this guy. Her mom also recently died. Allie is like low-key depressed because her mom died. She was really close to her mother. A year later, a year after her mom died, on the day her mom died a year later, her husband divorces her, right? So she is going through a divorce and the grief of losing her mom. So she has kind of like lost it. She's also like a professional organizer. So she goes to other people's houses and organizes everything for them, like their closets, their pantries, everything, right? But her life is the complete opposite of what she does for a living. Her life is a mess. She has stacks of unread, unopened mail, a sink full of dishes. She's just like a mess. Anyway, she spends a lot of time in sweatpants, barely looking cute, barely getting ready for the day, just depressed. Like when you're depressed, the last thing you want to do is get cute, right? So that's kind of what she's going through. Anyway, one day she's walking her dog. She finally decides to put on pants, guys, and take her dog to the dog park, right? The one day she does that, her dog pees on this guy named Ethan at the dog park. But Ethan is like low-key cute, okay? So she notices Ethan. She was like super like, oh my god, I'm so sorry my dog peed on you. I'm so sorry, whatever. And like the whole time, Ethan is looking at her like he likes what he sees, right? Girl. Oh, by the way, I can't remember what I gave that book. I think I gave that book 4.5 stars because I did not like the way that book ended. It was going so well. It was so good. It's actually like really funny. I love the humor in that book. I don't know, it really made me happy, like low-key brought joy to me. I don't know, it just felt like, for me, I was super annoyed by the end of the book. Like I just hate when people like, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to spoil it, but when her dog pees on Ethan, her and Ethan have this like attraction, right? I love the banter in the story. It takes us on the journey of being basically like a single divorced mom who is dating somebody else, who has to co-parent still. And when you're co-parenting with this guy who divorced you, the dynamic is a little off. The dynamic is a little weird. And I hate her ex-husband. Like Pete, ew, what a terrible name. But like good for Annabelle Monaghan for like naming him Pete because that's an ugly name. And that's what he deserves, okay? But anyway, Pete was just like so rude and so mean and so nasty and just for no reason. Like he did not have to be like that. But anyway, he was like that and so I don't like him. It felt very realistic, like when you're depressed. And I like how she still talked about what it was like to grieve the loss of her mother. Because her and her mother were still like super close, she could still like feel her mother's presence and like kind of like communicate and talk to her. Not a ghost weird way. Like you just gotta read it to find out, you know? But like I really like that vibe. But because Allie is like a newly single mom, the last thing she needs is like a man to make her life messier. She just got a divorce, she's grieving, she's just finally starting to like get over all that. And then here comes this guy that her dog claimed basically. But it says, but there's no harm in a little summer romance, you know what I'm saying? So like, even though she's depressed and all this, that doesn't mean that you can't find love. And this is like a really short, flimsy-ish kind of book. Like I don't know, I really liked it, but the end had me so annoyed. I was like, why? Anyway, I recommend you read this book. Honestly, it was a really good summer read. I felt happy reading it. Like I said, I was laughing. I felt like I was there. It was like really well written, seriously. Like no complaints about that part. Okay, so a book that really disappointed me this month was this one. This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I'm not into that. But anyway, This Summer Will Be Different. I thought, like, I really had high hopes for it. This is my first book by her. I knew she was like a good writer because she has so many other like popular books, but I just couldn't get into it. Like I waited all the way up until part 2 and then I still was like, no, it was just too boring for me. Like literally it was too boring. Let me tell you what it's about. So Lucy is on her way to Prince Edward Island, which is her best friend's home, her hometown, whatever. And so when Lucy goes to Prince Edward Island, she gets there a little bit before her friend because of like airport traffic, whatever. So she gets there before her friend and she goes to this oyster shack and meets this guy named Felix. She finds him like really attractive. She goes home with him and she ends up like liking Felix. Later she realizes that Felix is her best friend's brother, and her best friend Bridget had 3 rules: go to Prince Edward Island and ignore the city, forget about the city life, eat your weight in oysters, and don't fall in love with my brother. And before the book even gets started, Lucy breaks the third rule of falling in love with her brother because she like really likes him, whatever. It says they vow to never repeat that electric night. It says Lucy and Phyllis's chemistry is unreal, but the list of reasons why they need to stay away from each other is long. But it actually isn't even that long, but okay. Anyway, they said it's easier said than done. Each year, Lucy escapes to Prince Edward Island for a big breath of coastal air, fresh oysters, and crisp wine with her best friend Bridget. Every visit begins with a long walk on the beach, And every visit, Lucy promises herself she won't wind up in Phyllis's bed again. It says if Lucy can't help being drawn to Felix, at least she's always kept her heart out of it. But it says when Bridget suddenly flees to Toronto a week before her wedding, Lucy drops everything to follow her to the island. Her mission is to help Bridget through her crisis and resist the one man she's never been able to. But Felix's sparkling eyes and flirty quips have been replaced with something new, and Lucy's beginning to wonder just how safe her heart truly is. The reason why I DNF'd that book was because it was so boring. Like it was like too slow for me. If the synopsis is gonna tell you all of that, you expect for it to start the book and then just go? No, like 70 to 80 pages of like Lucy trying to avoid Felix being so hot and attractive, and Lucy trying to avoid Felix, Bridget leaving in her whole life, because she's about to get married in 1 week, not a month, not a year, in 1 week, she's about to get married, and she just randomly leaves and go to this island. She's like, come with me. So Lucy goes with her. While I'm reading the book, we still don't know why Bridget has fled, why she is going through, like what happened, don't know. And I read so much of that book. Like I was talking about it in my romance reading vlog or whatever, and I was talking about it in my weekly vlog, okay? Because I was annoyed. Like I brought this book to New Orleans with me on vacation thinking it was gonna be a summery book like the way it looks. No, I was so bored. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but like it needed to pick up. Like what else is there? Okay, yes, he's attractive. Yes, he's hot. Yes, he's your best friend's brother. So for so many pages, so many chapters, part 1, part 2, it's like Bridget still doesn't know that they had a thing. But it's in my head, I'm like, how does she not know? It's so obvious the way that they act around each other. Like how would he know these things about her if they didn't know each other already? Like a girl, I don't know. I was just like so bored. I was very, very disappointed. And so that was the only book that I kind of DNF'd this whole month. So that's not terrible. For me, if I get bored reading a book, I will literally stop reading because I'm like, I don't like wasting time and my time is precious, okay? So I was like, no, let me go read something else and see if I can get back into it. And then I just never did. So here we are. Let me go stir the pasta real quick. Okay, y'all, then I finished the month reading this book. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I gave this book a solid 4 stars. A solid 4 stars. I love the whole well, I like the action. I don't know. Let me tell you what it was about. So basically, this is also a dual perspective book. It's about Peyton and Kai. Okay, so in this land that we're in, this is like a fantasy romantasy kind of novel. It says the elites have possessed powers for decades, gifted to them by this plague, okay? While those born ordinary are just ordinary. So if you are ordinary, you are banished from the kingdom of Ilia and shunned from society. So if you don't have any magical powers, you can't sit at the table with us. You cannot be with us, okay? Like, you don't have powers, like no. Anyway, no one knows this better than Peyton Gray. She's an ordinary posing as a psychic to blend in with the elites. So she doesn't have any powers, but she's pretending like she's very psychic to like not be shunned from society, literally, basically. But when she unwittingly saves one of the princes, Kai, she's thrown into the purging trials, a brutal competition showcasing the elites' powers. If the trials and the opponents within them don't kill her, the prince she's fighting feelings for will if he discovers what Peyton is. Completely ordinary. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Honestly, I was captivated the entire time. I love the banter between Kai and Peyton. Like, it was so freaking good. And the ending had me like on the edge of my chair reading, like trying to read so fast, like, cause like it was so captivating. I wish like majority of the book had that same ending effect. So like based on the synopsis, how they have trials, that part was giving Hunger Games, but like a way lesser version. But it was still very similar to like Hunger Games, where like these people are picked at random to be into the trials, and within the trials, your #1 mission is to be the one who wins the trial. Even if that means you have to kill people, hurt people, it makes it more like, you know. know, but like that's really good. However, that part is like 10% of the book. It was mostly like a romance novel. Someone said this was basically like a rom-com with action, and I was like, that's actually pretty accurate, because a lot of the book is just like the relationship dynamic between Kai and Peyton and this girl. It is so good though. If you like romance novels, you probably love this book. Like, it's romance. It's like a romance novel with action packed in it. And like, because Peyton saved Kai's life, everyone looks at Peyton a certain way. But the girl is ordinary. She has no powers. And I'm like low-key scared for her, because she's been thrown into these trials, having to like prove herself. And she's surrounded by people who have powers. And these people can like shapeshift and turn into different animals. These people can like move you with their mind. Like, they can like become really, really strong and aggressive and all this kind of stuff. Like, she's just ordinary. I just love the dynamic between Prince Kai and Peyton. Like, oh, their love attraction is just so romantic, and it's so sad too, and it's just so heart-wrenching, because like, girl, but it's not really like I don't know, it just seemed like everyone was talking about how it just seems very similar to other books like The Hunger Games, like Harry Potter, or like the ACOTAR. People were saying that it's also similar to the ACOTAR series and all this kind of stuff. But I'm like, yes and no, because the underlying thing is different, but it's the same but different. I don't know, once you read a lot of books, they all kind of blend together, like low-key, in my opinion. It's just like the same but different in like one or two ways. There are only so many things you can do, and so I was like, people need to like chill out, like back up, you know? Like, it was still a good book. Like, we can't pretend like you weren't captivated until the very end. I didn't DNF this book, okay? So it was that good. Like, I read through the whole thing, and in the end, I was like, there was like a huge unexpected turn. Like, you spend the whole book thinking one thing, and then you find out a whole nother thing, and it's just like, it's just so good. Like, but the reason why I was a 4-star and not a 5-star was because like the trials, like I was really, every time I read about like them going to the trials, it fell flat for me. Like, if they're gonna talk about it in the synopsis, like it's like, oh, she's thrown into the trials, that literally was like 5% of the book, honestly. Even though they were at the trials, it wasn't as aggressive as you would think. Like The Hunger Games, even though it's similar to The Hunger Games, where people have to fight to the death, and like basically like you want to be the one to win. If you think about it, it's like a bunch of elites and mundanes, and mundanes have powers, but they're just like lower level people with powers. If you are an elite, you do not want to lose to a mundane who has like psychic ability. You know, if you can move people with your mind and move sticks and stones with your brain, you don't want to lose to somebody who were like literally picked up from the slums. You can't lose to a slummer, what they called it, but you have to compete against them nonetheless. Nobody wants to lose. And if you are a slummer, you want to win, because you're gonna win a lot of money, and this money can help you get out of the slums and go live into and have a better life for you and your family, whatever. Like, you want to win the games. You don't want to lose, because sometimes losing literally means dying. Like, you can get killed in this stuff, okay? But even though we know all this, the trial still fell flat, because you would think it would be more like, oh my god, action packed. Like, it really was not like that for me personally. Maybe it was for other people, but for me, I was like, yeah, the trials are very much mid. Really, it was the romance, the romanticy part that got me. And I do love how the word powerless is used so many times in different ways. I love that play on words. Like, Kai used powerless, Peyton is powerless. Like, I just love the way that she utilized the title of the book so often that it would make sense that it would be called Powerless. Anyway, it was a really good book though. Like, I loved it. I think if you like romance novels, you should definitely read this book. It's not really like fantasy like other fantasy novels. That's not the overall thing. If you've never read a fantasy book and you want to get into fantasy, then try this one, because powers are at play, but it's not the main thing literally at all. It's the romance part. So if you like romanticy, if you like romance books, then you definitely should read Powerless. Okay, now I always like to do some audiobooks. Like, I listen to audiobooks when I'm exercising or when I'm like going for my morning walks and stuff. The audiobook that I listened to this month was The Psychology of Money. The Psychology of Money is a non-fiction book, okay? It's basically literally what the title says. It's talking about the way people think about money. The whole point of it is to kind of give you an idea of how you need to view money in your life. I've always wanted to read this book because I don't come from a huge family of money. Everything that we have worked extremely hard for, and so money is not like a topic that we even talk about openly. Like, we're one of those families, you know? So with that being said, like, I I wanted to learn how other people think about money and what I can do to have a better relationship with money. And I know it's all mental, literally, which is why a title being The Psychology of Money is so fitting for that topic for me personally. So basically, the author gives you things to think about when it comes to money. I feel like everyone can learn a thing or two from this book, even if like you have a lot of money, even if you like never really struggle with money, because like if you have a lot of money, you have to realize the game you're playing. If you don't have a lot of money, you need to realize the game you're playing and the game that other people might be playing. One of the biggest things that I took away from this book is how it talks about other people's relationship with money, taking advice from other people. Like when you are taking advice from other people, you never know how this advice is gonna really help you. The reason why you're saving might be a completely different reason from why I'm saving. The reason why you don't have a savings account could be different from the reasons why I do have a savings account. Or the things that I choose to invest in may be different from what you want to invest in. And just because I say you should do it doesn't mean that it's gonna actually be beneficial to you if we have different goals. The thing is, we don't know what other people's goals are. People don't openly talk about, well, I'm saving for a house, I'm saving for a car, I'm saving for my children's college education, I'm investing in this stock because this reason, or I'm investing in stocks, period. Like my family, I don't know anybody in my family personally who invests in stocks. And to some people, that's a big no-no. Also, one thing I love about this book is like it talks about like how a lot of these things like the Roth IRA literally came about in the 1990s when I was born. So like, of course, my dad, my parents, they weren't born into like Roth IRAs or like 401ks. That wasn't the norm when they were growing up, okay? One of the biggest reasons why our parents may be different from us is because they literally grew up in a whole different time where these things didn't even exist when they were growing up, when they were learning about money, when they were learning about life in general. And so now that we do have these things at our disposal, they still aren't like investing in it or like really thinking about it because it's so fresh and so new. It's as old as their children, you know? So like sometimes people don't want to take a risk in things that they don't know, especially when it has to do with money. I love that the Psychology of Money book kind of teaches you like that. I didn't even know the Roth IRA was like so new, because as I'm learning about it, it's as old as I am. So like it's been around for a long time in my opinion, but that's not necessarily the case. So yeah, I really think like knowing other people's reasons for saving versus not, or like investing in this versus investing in that, knowing other people's reasons and knowing that their reasons can be completely different from your reason and you will never know it is really important. Because who do you get your financial advice from? Your parents? Maybe their reason for saving is to put you through college education, but your reason for saving could be, oh, I want to buy this nice car, I want to buy a house myself, or I just want to have money saved up in general. Like your reason for investing in the stock market could be, I want to invest in the stocks that's going to make me the most money the quickest so that I can withdraw that money. Whereas some people invest in the stock market to let their money sit for decades. And so who do you listen to? How do you know who to go to? How do you know who to listen to for what? Like you really don't know. If I went on TikTok right now and looked up like stocks to invest in, who knows like the reasoning for them investing in that stock, you know? If I was trying to look for a stock to invest in for the long term, where I want my money to sit in there for like the next 5 to 10 years, that's different. I'm going to invest into something differently than someone who's trying to invest today and withdraw today or tomorrow, you know, like it's different. We need to know who to listen to it for what, and to also know that there are different reasons for doing different things. And your reason doesn't have to be the same as everybody. It probably isn't going to be the same as everybody, you know? There is good debt and there is bad debt, okay? And you need to know what game you're playing to know which debt to get into. Consumer debt is very different from like debt to buy a house. So you have to know what game you're playing, and like that book really helped me with that. So if you feel like you struggle with money, if you want to know more about money, if you just want to know how other people think about money so that you can make your own decision, then I highly recommend you listen to or read The Psychology of Money. It really has changed my life completely, and now I take everything that people say with a grain of salt, especially about money. So alright y'all, so that completely wraps up all the books that I read in the month of July. Have you read any of these books? If you have, leave a comment below of what did you think of them. What was your rating on some of these books? So I can know like, am I the only one who thinks this? Also follow me on Goodreads if you haven't already. I try to update the books that I'm reading like pretty much daily. So if you want to know what I'm reading or what I think about a certain book as I'm reading it, then you should totally check out Goodreads. If you like content like this, then be sure to subscribe for more videos. I would love to have you. Also, if you like talking about about books in general, be sure to join my book club. I do have a book club that's on Patreon. I'll leave it linked in the description box below and in the comments. This month for August, we're gonna be reading Curvy Girl Summer, and it's actually like a new release. So if you wanna know how we think about that book and you wanna join us, if you wanna talk to us live like in real time, you can literally join the book club for free. I would love to have you join the book club if you are into that vibe. I would love to meet more like-minded people who are like me, who are like you, so that we can talk. We can even go on live on Discord so that we can like literally talk face to face, like through video chat or even like messaging. It's much more faster to communicate with me through the book club than YouTube, and so I would love to have you guys join the book club. So if you are interested in joining the book club and being with me and my book club girlies, I'll leave it linked in the description box below. I would love to see you over there. Bye y'all.